My name is Mark Moore, and I've spent about 30 years as a political activist. And I've seen them go up, and I've seen them come down, and I've seen them come, and I've seen them go, and I've learned some things in those years. And I wanted to share that with other people for a lot of reasons. One, so they could avoid the pitfalls that I saw others get to. Not even just people who are running for office and become politicians, but even just activists who help others get elected, who advocate for certain public policy. And I think it can be a great thing. You know, political activism, I wouldn't have done it for all those years if I didn't think that. The system stinks, but it would stink a lot worse if there were not idealistic people sort of acting as a watchdog and a check on it. And so I think it has value. You know, I think if you sacrifice your time, energy, and effort to try to make the system better, make it less corrupt, sort of keep an eye on things, while other people are just, doing other things with their life, you're doing a public service. But there are dangers, especially if you have any success. If you have any success, it gets very seductive and it gets very deceptive. And I wanted to warn people and to help people to avoid the pitfalls and the traps that some of them are so subtle. You just wake up 10 years from now and you realize, what have I been doing? How did I get here? I don't want to be here. And so I wanted to write a book about that. I've written 5 other books. This was the easiest one to write. It just flowed out of me. I also think it's the most entertaining one I wrote because I didn't write the book I wanted to write. I wrote the book my wife told me I should write. And that is a book that doesn't give a list of talking points. In fact, I don't know that I explicitly say the things that I want to say at the end of this video. I want to give 3 of the biggest sort of rules to live by to avoid finding yourself waking up disillusioned 15, 20 years later and saying, what have I done? So I don't know that I even give them explicitly, but she said, just tell your story and people will get that just from reading your story. They'll get it better and they'll enjoy learning it more. And so that's what I did. I wrote an autobiography, basically, focusing on my life as an activist and not the other phases of my life. And the reason most autobiographies fail is because the person writing them, they're not honest. They don't say it with the warts and everything. And I didn't make that mistake. I went ahead and I wasn't always the good guy, and I wasn't always the bad guy, and I wasn't always the victim, and I wasn't always the hero. And mostly we just muddle through, and sometimes I learn from others, sometimes they learn from me. So that is what the book is about. But I know that not everybody has the time, energy, or effort to read the book, even though, like I said, it is a fun read. People have told me they've read it in one setting, even though it's a little long for that. But I wanted to share with you 3 rules sort of in an instructional format, not the way my wife said to write the book, and see if maybe that will help even people that don't read it to avoid the pitfalls and the traps that I've seen so many people fall into, and they come out of this thing disillusioned, maybe even disgraced, and their life isn't as good as I would want it to be, considering that they went into this thing with ideals, with high ideals, and they were really trying to make government better. And they didn't deserve that, but they got seduced by the system or they got trapped by it. So I'm going to take a break here, come back. We'll do the 3 rules that can help you avoid the pitfalls if you decide to make activism a part of your life. Number 1 is, and I have it written down here, do it for your life. Do not let it become your life. In other words, people can get so wrapped up in this that they want to eat, breathe, and sleep it, and they can forget to have their own life. They can forget to have their own real personal life. They can forget to have their own professional life. And in our documentary Access, one of the guys there who got the farthest up in this thing, he became Secretary of State for Arkansas. He basically said, these folks that do not have a profession to fall back on or are not independently wealthy, they have to get seduced or corrupted very quickly, or they wind up getting out. And so what he advised was, you have something to fall back on. You have a trade, you have a career, there's something else you do professionally, unless you're independently wealthy. And I'm saying go beyond that. You know, it applies to your emotional life too. It applies to having a good, sound family. It applies to having other interests and becoming, having a balanced persona where you're not all wrapped up in politics and what happens in the next election. Because if you do that, it's very easy for them to get you into compromising situations to stay in the game or to win the next election or what have you. The second rule, so that's one rule, do it for your life, do not let it become your life. The second rule is, on your journey, and this is a journey, the title of my book is Journey on the Outside, My Life as an Activist, but life is a journey for all of us, some more adventurous than others. Mine has been fairly adventurous in this realm. But on your journey, look for soulmates, not just allies. And there's a saying that in politics, you can't take friendship personally. And in the most cases, that is true. In politics, you can't take friendship personally. The biggest users in the world are trying to use people in politics. And politicians, the good guys, the bad guys, if they're successful, to some extent, they're a user. And you have to accept that and not, build your life around someone whose personality or has this aura, and you think, oh, gee, I'll just, dedicate my life to helping them get more power, or attaining it yourself if you want to be an office holder. But you forget to find real friends along the way. Never mind that, you're passing through when you decide to become an activist. There's other people who have real feelings and ideals that are similar to yours, and they probably think like you in other ways. And so connect with them, not just the ones that are most useful to you in winning the next election, but prioritize the ones that your human soul connects with their human soul the most. Because everybody does this in their normal life. You go through normal jobs and you go through normal events in life, and sometimes you meet people, you just click. And what people do is that they cherish those friendships and they develop them. Don't do it any differently just because you're in politics, and most of your relationships, or many of them, are allies and not true friends. Still prioritize the true friends. And the third rule that I've come up with after a lifetime of lessons learned is that you regularly take an honest look at yourself and your own team instead of just looking for faults on the other team. And unfortunately, politics is very prone to this. Instead of examining ourselves and our own motives and our own actions objectively, we just want to be hypercritical of the other team and let our own team slide. And you know what? This doesn't even, in the long run, it works in the short run. But in the long run, it doesn't even work to be a successful political strategy, because the average person can tell that's what you're doing, and they'll just get sick of both sides, which is kind of where we're at now, because both major teams do it. But if there's a new team, don't do that. Don't make that mistake. We can all go astray. We can all go astray. And the way we do not do that is we be honest with ourselves, and we be honest about our own club, and we correct where necessary. If you just say, no, my side's the good guys and they're the bad guys, if people are against us, they're wrong because we're the good guys, it's a very dangerous place to be. You can't ever say, well, wait a minute, we're on the wrong track here, let's course correct and get better. You basically just have two teams of toxic followers looking for toxic leaders, and neither side can improve themselves because they only look at the faults of the other side. So those are 3 lessons I've learned, and you don't even have to read the book. I'm just offering it for free in the video for anyone it helps. If you read the book, I know some people out there are not believers. I am a believer, so maybe if you're offended by that, it's probably not for you. But I would say being a believer is no protection against these pitfalls I've talked about. I've seen plenty of Christians and non-Christians fall into these same traps, and they wake up later and they don't have a life. And I want you to have a life like I have a life, and it's a good one. And that's what I want for you too. And so I'm offering this to you today. I hope it is well received. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.